I think our dough should be ready now. We'll go get it and we'll start the stretching and folding process. Risen quite a bit from yesterday. We were looking for 3 times the original size, and it looks like we're there. So let's go in and spread it out. Our first step when we get the dough inside is to get it back up to room temperature. And we're going to do that in a proofing oven. We're going to leave that in there for 30 minutes to an hour and just get the dough all warmed up so we can use it. Okay, that dough has about warmed back up, and I brought in a couple other little things that I'm going to use this morning. We bought this handy little plastic cover for the table to roll things out on. I don't think it's real wonderful, but it does give you an idea where your flour is going to be so you don't make a huge mess. Normally I use a wet surface, and I recently have switched over to using a floured surface because I think the outside just gets a little bit drier and probably a little more crunchy in the process. So we're going to use a little bit of flour sprinkled on this surface. So I got my flour, and I got a little container to move it around with. Stuff around a little bit. See, it sort of defines your workspace and kind of makes things comfortable. Now we'll get our bread out. First thing we're going to do is dump it out of this container. Checking. Notice again it's a full 3 times what it was yesterday. We'll put this rack back in the oven because we're going to need it later. Now here's another little tool that I like to use. It's handy, not necessary, but I like it. It's just a dough scraper. Helps to clean out the inside of this container. Okay, it's not necessarily perfect, but we got it out of here. Now we're gonna put water in this right away because that stuff's hard enough to clean up. We'll just let that water run for a minute, and we'll start this stretch and fold process. The first thing we're gonna do is fold it all over on itself. A little more flour to work surface here, and maybe just a little on my hands. now we're going to squash her all down. That thing's kind of a nuisance. I think if I'd have wet that surface underneath, it would have stuck to the counter a little better. Okay, it's being a little ornery this morning. We're going to let that rest there for about 5 minutes. In the meantime, we can go back and start cleaning up some of this mess. Well, it looks like we had a cockpit error on that one. The running back and forth to the camera, I messed up, and we didn't catch the second part of this stretch and fold. But the idea is the same. Flatten the stuff out, fold it over, and flip it over, and then let it rest for 5 minutes. In this case, we added some Kalamata olives during this stretch and fold process and came up with the olives in the finished product. The pans we're going to use today are these. Now that we've got these loaves divided and sized, much as they're going to be, we're going to let them rise by themselves for another 30 minutes. They were purchased at a baking supply store, and they don't exactly match. We had two sets of these. What I've found with the parchment paper is that, again, you're working in thirds. I make it about the right length. Then I fold it in half. And now the idea is that we're going to want to fold each side in so it'll lay in the tray nicely. Okay. See how that lays? It lays pretty good. Not perfect, but it'll work. Same thing with the second one. Fold it in half. And fold it again so that it fits the tray. And I'm going to spray that with just a little bit of olive oil spray. Okay, our regular loaves are right here. We're going to divide those in 3. Really good bakers would use a scale to divide these out and make sure they were all the same. but we're no commercial operation, as you can tell. And we're shaping these to generally how they're going to look. Now, I did talk about before that you could use these pans, you could use a lot of pans. You could use a regular old bread pan if you want, or you could cook them in a Dutch oven. Bread will come out about the same. Some people have preferences for electric style loaves. Our family kind of tends to like these, so that's what we make. Get a little more flour in my hands here. If you do this with just a wet counter surface, you don't need to keep sprinkling your hands with flour. Just dip them in a little water. I've probably got a lot of those famous authors that write bread books rolling over right now with disgust because of the way I'm doing this, but who cares? Now we do the calamatas. There's nothing that says you couldn't put those olives into the batter before you had it going through all the rise and all that. Probably get them mixed in a little better, but this one works good enough for me. Notice I'm just kind of using the weight of the dough to help shape these things. We just want to kind of long. Again, the commercial people would make these much more regular and perfect looking. I call these my rustic loaves, so they work for me. Anyway, I'll come back in a minute. And in the meantime, that's a good time to get the oven warmed up.